Hello, people. Good people. We are live, and this is MG Live, in case you didn't know where you tapped into. Thank you so much for tuning in with us. I am with the amazing, the incomparable, the oh so insightful Michelle Andrews. My friend, my sister, is joining in with me. Welcome to all our live viewers. Welcome to anybody who's watching the replay right now. I so love you and I so appreciate you. Listen, do me a favor. We're going to allow like maybe 20 more seconds for some live viewers to join us. In the meantime, you know how we do. I want you to hit that share button for me so that we can get this out to as many eyeballs as possible. And if you would leverage that on your platforms, we would be so appreciative of that.
Eyeballs is possible.
And if you're watching the replay, do me a favor and write hashtag replay in the comment section so I know exactly when you are watching this and tuning in. So as we give a few more seconds for some live viewers to join us, I'm going to let you know who I am because I never take for granted that people know who I am. My name is Maya Gatewood. This is MG Live, and this is my live web series that I talk about various topics from leveling up business-wise, your personal brand, professional marketing, all the things to make you the amazing, wonderful individual that you are. And I am a marketing manager in my 9-to-5. I also, what else do I do? I freelance graphic designer.
Maya.
Freelance graphic designer.
Multi-purpose.
Kind of moving more into the marketing consulting space there. But I also am the creator and owner of MDGTs, which stands for Empress Design and Graphics T-shirts. And if you would like to shop the video, you can grab your MG Live merch right here on the screen. There will be a link popping up in the screen right now. You can grab this T-shirt that I have on right now. And you can grab your merch. This is a shameless plug. This is my channel, so we're gonna do it over here. But if you also wanted to get the logo tee for MDGTs and support, I would be so appreciative of that. But anyway, let me hide that. And I'm going to give an opportunity for Michelle. Please introduce yourself. Let the people know who you are, where to find you, all the things before we get into it.
Hi guys, I'm Michelle Andrews White. I am wife, mom of 3. Currently an office manager. I'm not gonna say my company's name right now, but I mean, I still have my company. I just don't do nothing with it. Genesis Squared. At one point, I provided nutritional coaching.
We're gonna pick that back up. Don't you worry, bro.
At one point, I provided nutritional coaching. Right now, Genesis Squared is just sitting nicely, waiting to be utilized. So we'll talk about that somewhere in here. It'll all catch on. It'll all connect. Where can you find me at? Home. That's me. Find me home.
Okay.
Find me home. 2, you may find me at church. But 3, you can go to Michelle Andrews White on Facebook or Pretty PRETTY _Michi on Instagram. I just got on TikTok. I ain't really that yet, but I'm working on that. So.
Yeah, I haven't gotten into the whole TikTok thing. I'm gonna be totally honest. I actually posted a couple of things and then fell off for a while. So maybe that's the avenue though that we need to.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So I don't even know where to start with this conversation because Michelle and I talk. And things just are birthed out of our conversations, and they're most often spiritually based. And so we were just sharing, and sort of the title of this MG Live is Sandcastles. And you're probably like, what the heck does Sandcastles have to do with anything? So, I could be a little deep sometimes. So let me give an explanation. So we're really talking about how childhood foundations and that those developmental years, what occurs there really structures or sets the foundation for the structure of the rest of your life and how you are as an adult, the decisions you make, your approach to things, your adult relationships that you have. And we're older now, so we can look back with that hindsight that is 2020.
2020.
Okay. And be like, why am I making this decision? Why, why is this running in my family? Or why am I succumbing to this? Or why do I find myself in these repeat situations or with repeat offenders? And so then you look back and we were like, this happened. And so we were kind of like, I think everybody's probably going to be able to identify with this, right? So whether it's relationship to parents, whether it's relationship to other family members, whether it's relationship to friends. So I think it's really important that when you're setting that foundation, when you're younger, that some things that we'll talk about are really going to be very instrumental in the type of adult that you turn out to be.
Oh, Jesus.
So we came up with a couple of questions, and listen, just a little housekeeping. Please do drop your questions in the chat, drop your comments in the chat. Let us know you're in the building. If you're live with us, give us a shout out. But let's get the conversation going in the comments. And if you're on the replay, you know how we do. Drop those comments. I'll get a notification. When you do, we'll come back. We'll answer that for you. Okay, so we just have a couple of kickoff starter questions. And then we're just going to free flow this conversation. So we don't really have a format necessarily. But I want to ask you, Michelle. Question number 1. What are the foundational influences in our early childhood, right? So parents, family, friends,
yeah.
And family being either siblings, grandparents. Some of us, I'm an only child, but you have a sibling. Some people were raised by their grandparents. So like, what does that foundational sort of influence look like for you, to you?
My foundation for me, yes, I do come from a 2-parent home, but I'll say due to life changes, everybody is dealt a hand of cards. So I would say in this regard, my parents were dealt cards, and for one parent, his cards, ended up in death. And for my other parent, for my mom, her card ended up with drug abuse. So I was raised by my grandmother, and that's my structure. And like Maya said, your structure is composed of your parents, your immediate family, if there are any, because like Maya, she's the only child, so there's really nobody outside of just her parents. And then it's your friends and the friends that you make when you go to school. And this starts from the moment that you walk into a school.
Hey, Bryce.
Okay, there we go. Hi, Royce. So that's the structure. So as far as my parents, that's the structure for my parents. As far as my family is concerned, I do have one brother. I also have a sister, and I have 2 sisters and another brother, but that is, something outside of the family. And friends. Honestly, my childhood friends, I still have them. Thank God. I still have them. And I also have, new friends that I made a choice of making them my friend in my adulthood. So your childhood friends is kind of haphazard. It's what happens out of, I won't say convenience, but it's because you go to school and you go to school every day with the same people. So yeah, but I will say that my childhood friends, I am still friends with to this day. So that's the structure for me. What's your structure?
So my structure is only child, which has its pluses and minuses, right? Because people will say you're spoiled. My mom will say that I am spoiled, but I'm not spoiled rotten.
Not rotten. It's the only child.
I got a little bit of that, just smidge. So I am an only child. Pluses are, of course, you have all the attention on you, so you can get a lot of attention if you're like someone who likes attention. But the double-edged sword to that is that all of the focus is on you. So there's no distracting from another sibling or anything else. It's just, for me, it was just me and my parents in the house. So it was like everything that I did was the focus. What grades are you making in school? Who are you hanging out with? What extracurricular activities are you doing? So that was led to me sort of being very sheltered because I was very shy when I was younger. I still am shy. And
love that word, sheltered.
People who know me now probably would not categorize me as shy, but I actually am shy. And that led to me, so being very sheltered. And I grew up in a Christian household, so I wasn't doing certain things. I wasn't hanging out like that. I was in church or I was in my room.
In church.
So, being an only child, you get very comfortable with amusing yourself and entertaining yourself. So I was very comfortable in my own space. So when I go outside, I have to mentally prepare myself to go outside. Because, and I'm also someone, I absorb like other people's energies who are around me. And if it's too much going on, it's too overwhelming, then I'm just like, okay, gotta go. Because I think that I'm very empathetic, so I can sort of connect with people. And if it's too loud somewhere, if it's too crowded, remember, I'm very comfortable in my own space. So I love being home. I'm a homebody. I do like being at home. But yeah, so for a lot of my childhood, my foundational developmental years was just my parental unit. That was who I saw the world through. That was the lens that I saw the world through. And there were some pluses and minuses to that, right? Because, okay, you have the closeness, you have the close-knitness. There's a loyalty there to a certain extent. Like, I can rely on these people. But on the other hand, it's kind of like, how do I say this? Let's just say we had some family challenges, where
I told you it's gonna be rough.
We said that we were gonna kind of struggle with describing certain things. But let's just say I had our household was a little tumultuous. You can draw whatever conclusions you wish from
That's
that.
on you.
But it really affected how I saw men, how I saw marriage, how I perceived and interacted in relationships, both romantic relationships and friendships, platonic friendships, even work. Like, my mom always had an office job. She was always like, she worked at Alcatel-Lucent, like that was how long ago that was, AT&T and everything for years and years. My dad was more
wow, that is a while ago.
It was a long time
because I'm like
ago.
Lucent Technology,
right?
I remember that.
My dad was more not blue collar necessarily, but kind of held down a couple of jobs. So I had both of those dynamics in the house with two different types of provider styles, if you will. And so even my work ethic, I kind of consider myself a little bit of a workaholic. But I think that stemmed from just coming from a household where my parents worked. You weren't just laying around doing nothing. You were getting up and going to work. And I also, even though, we did have challenges at home, my mom and my dad were very supportive of me. So I have an art education. So I went to an art school. I didn't even go to college with an art program. I went to art school where the entire curriculum is art-based. So I didn't have an English. I didn't have like math. I didn't have science. It was like art history and grant writing and literature for artists and designers. And of course I had all my life science drawing and printmaking and things like that. But they were very supportive of that. And they were like, look, you want to go to art school? Okay, fine. And, really supported me even studying abroad. So I went to Italy for 7 weeks. I went to Mexico for 3 weeks. And, they were like, encouraged me to experience traveling and different places and things like that. So very long-winded, but that was sort of my developmental structure of growing up, and how I sort of teased a little bit into certain behaviors and things that I've started to notice now that I'm older. But you go to the next question, Michelle, because I'm still trying to share this on my on my Instagram.
Okay, so what happens when these relationships break down or become fractured?
This is the meat and potatoes of this conversation, folks.
Oh my God. All right. Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right.
So what happened?
Come on. All right. Because we said we were going to do this.
Okay. We can do this.
Let's do it in stages. Parent. Now, let's say this first, so before we get to that. The essence of a sandcastle and why we chose sandcastle,
yes,
so that this can all make sense, is when you need to build a sandcastle, where do you go? A place that has a lot of sand. And usually when you go to a place with a lot of sand, it's a beach. And most likely when you go to the beach, you're going to the beach with your family. Family. Key point. Your parents also had to build sandcastles as well. So that means that they were at this beach with their parents as well. Okay?
Generation. Oh. We'll get to generation. Okay.
So you're at the beach with your mom and your dad. And for some people, they're at the beach with just their mom. For some people, they're at the beach with just their dad. And for some people, they're at the beach with their parents, but their parents are on two separate ends of the beach. All right? Catch it? Are you catching? All right, catching. When you get there, one of the things that you do, or one of the things that a child does when they get to the beach, is that they want to build sand, or they want to take the buckets and build something with the sand, go get water. Who is there to assist the child in doing that? The parent. The parent has to make sure that the child is safe, because the child has to go get water from the ocean. You cannot allow a child to go to the ocean on their own. You have to monitor the child and make sure that they go get the water safely. Make sure that they get all of the water back to the designated spot on the beach, that they're not spilling out all their water, so that they have enough water to build the sandcastle. I hope you're catching on to all the little.
It's a little bit deep. Go with us. Just go with us on this.
So you have the water, and the parent is helping the child do all of these things to build their sandcastle. All right. Also, building the sandcastle is very messy. It's not a clean job. It's not an easy job. And it's something that you have to do over and over, because the first time that you fill your bucket with a little bit of wet sand to pack it in and to turn it over and let out your first tower, it might fall apart. It might not even stay. And guess who has to help you put it back together? The parent. Okay.
Also, your sandcastle has got to be, you were talking about getting water, because you want to make the sand dense. You want to make it packed down so that your structure, your foundation is strong and solid before you start building the buckets on top, right? And so that's the other part of laying that foundation in early development in your childhood. Building on top of it is you as an adult building those layers of your life on top of it. But if your foundation is not strong, the whole thing is just going to crumble.
Right. It's all going to crumble. And again, this goes back to the parents assisting, making sure that you have the proper resources to build. All right. So now the question is, what happens when this foundational structure has been broken down or it has been fractured? And this is what we're dealing with. What happens is, and we're going to use the sandcastle as a way for you to understand without saying certain personal things. What happens when it's fractured is that your parents do not have the resource or the understanding or wisdom to help you properly get the water from the ocean. And that can come from many distractions on your parents' side. And again, remember, your parent was once a child, and they once was at the beach with their parent. Okay, so generational. Sometimes it could be a situation where Their parents did not provide them with the proper resources, the right wisdom, the know-how to go get the water from the ocean, safely carry the water and keep all the water in the bucket, get back to your designated spot, and then actually take the time and build the sandcastle with the child. When there is a fracture, like Maya said, you will not be able to build a solid tower. You will not. That tower will fall repeatedly, 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 repeatedly. It's just going to keep falling. And I want to throw something else in. If the parent decides to take their focus off the child just for a little bit, another child can come and kick over everything that the parent and child just
And I've
built.
seen it. You never seen a little bad little kid
that always come
along and just knock the whole thing, or it could even be a sibling. You built this whole thing, and your sibling comes
knocks it all over,
knocks the whole thing down,
and knocks the whole thing down. Yeah. So, and we want to use that too as the world. Let's view other children as you going out into the world, right? So you go out into the world, and your parent did not give you the right resources because they didn't have it, or whatever other reasons, but we just want to stick with because they weren't taught as well. They didn't have the wisdom as well. So now when you go out into the world and these kids come and knock over your sandcastle, you're destroyed. You're really messed up because it's like, I worked so hard to build this sandcastle.
I spent time on this.
Some time. And now you knock over
my thing down and walk away. You don't even say sorry. You don't even have the nerve to
say nothing. Yeah. But now the parental structure again is something that you said about your parents, that they were still supportive of you. Mm-hmm. The thing is, a child is going to cry when another child knocks over their sandcastle, and you're okay. It's okay to feel your emotions. It's okay to, be hurt and be upset and be disappointed because something that you worked so hard for fell apart. But like I said, if the parent decides to take their attention off that child just for a little bit, and that happens, and now the child is crying and the parent is not paying attention, what happens? The child will try to go back and rebuild that tower or that castle on their own. And that's a problem. That's a problem. Okay?
Yeah.
Big problem. So that's what happens when the parental structure is either broken down or fractured for whatever reasons. Yeah. Siblings and friends, I'm going to join them two together in a sense. When it comes to siblings and friends, usually if there's a disconnect between you and the parent, you always have somebody to fall back on, and that's usually your sibling or your friends that you go to school with. You come together, you talk about things, and I mean, even me, in just retrospect, thinking about some of my childhood friends, how we would be upset with our parents about certain things, and we would talk to each other like, right. What my mother did. My father did.
Right.
And, we're just so upset, whatever. But I would say that it's a support thing. Now, when there's a fracture in your sibling structure and your friendship structure, as far as childhood is concerned, there's a lack of support. When there's a lack of support, you bring in fear. Now it's fear of rejection. It's fear of criticism. And these are all the things that we all should be used to and taught to deal with in adulthood, but we're not, because like I said, once your parents had to go to the beach with their parents,
right,
and they had to build sandcastles too, and we don't know
if they were effectively taught how to build. So you reiterate what you were taught, right? So
you repeat it.
I saw my mom do this, so I'm gonna do this. I saw my dad do this, so I'm gonna do this. And just thinking about that question, what happens when these relationships break down? You get a distorted sense of self. Your growth can get stunted. You have unrealistic and unhealthy relationships with others, right? So, for instance, my dad and I were closer when I was younger, but as I grew up, probably because we are very much alike in personality, we started to drift apart. And because as I became older, I'm like, I'm a woman now. you know, and I'm an adult and I definitely have my own opinion and thoughts about how I want to do certain things and how I want to approach certain things. And they were different than how he wanted to do things. So we began to butt heads.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but now, my relationship with what a man should be, say, do is directly linked to what my father did, said, was to me, to my mom. And that's why I say it's especially for the father. Listen, my dad, girl dads out there, if you're a girl dad, your relationship with your daughter is so important, especially when she is young.
Very important.
Very important. And I'm not trying to say you got, it has to be like daddy's little girl and, spoiled and doting on her and all of that. But you have got to understand that you are literally laying the foundation for how she is going to see, approach, be with every other man she's going to encounter for the rest of her life.
The rest of her life.
You've got to set that standard. You've got to set boundaries with her. You've got to take her out on dates. You've got to tell her the right guys to look for, the knuckleheads to stay away from. It could be anything as just listening to her, because most women, we want to be heard. We want to feel validated. And your dad just being that listening ear can sort of set that foundation for you. It was like, this is what I want in my partner.
Yeah.
This is what I want in, it can even just be, like how you want to be treated at work, like a lot of us are dealing with stuff at work that we're just putting up with because we need a check. But, that early developmental foundational period in your life is just where you set your child up for success. And I watch a lot of my friends. I have a lot of friends who have kids. Y'all don't have kids, but a lot of my friends have kids. And I have watched them, some of them doing things like even setting them up bank accounts. I have a bank account that I set up for my goddaughter when she was 2, and she just started college this month. And I saw 18 years in the future when she was born. And I was like, she's going to need money for school. She's going to need money for a car. She's going to need money, down payment for an apartment or something. So I knew that I had to set that foundation then. But I'm watching my friends open bank accounts, LLCs, teaching their kids how to save, these different things. Because when you don't, that child is going to have a distorted sense of self, whether it's self-esteem, not seeing themselves the way that they truly are, stunted growth. So they're not living up to the potential that they were truly created to be. And then having that unrealistic and unhealthy relationship with others. And I would say that probably that third bullet for me and I don't have a problem sharing my age. I'm 42. As a 42-year-old woman, looking at the relationships that I have now as an adult and saying, I probably could have saved myself a lot of hurt, heartache, a lot of wasted time. If I had been that expectation had been set earlier, pre-puberty, to even know what to expect before you even start liking boys. This is what you should be looking for. This is what you should not accept.
Can I put a
Please do.
pin in that?
Please do.
Now, to those who are very religious, this may offend you. I don't care. My friends would tell you I am probably the one that has probably the worst. I don't complete the rest of the sentence attitude ever.
Hi, Erica.
Oh, hi, Erica. All right. Religious folk. What she just said. And I'm gonna be a little bit more specific. It's the Black charismatic church folk. I'm not going to put a denomination or denominations attached to it, but you know who you are. Y'all, and I'm just going to say it. Saints of the Most High God, we think because we follow the word of God, and some of us are still ill-informed, but we think because we follow the word of God that our relationship with our children are just A1. And that's not true. That's not true.
In most cases, it's worse.
It's far worse, because what she just said about fathers and daughters having their relationship, and not just the father but the mother too, being able to teach the daughters what to and what not to do when they're getting ready to go into relationships. Now let's throw the religious aspect into that. The religious aspect, when it is not done properly, it will put holes in your structure, big time. In your sandcastle, if you take religion too far and you're not actually breaking down the word of God and learning it, understanding the time, the time frame that a lot of the stories were in, the reason why the stories were in the Bible, all those sorts of things. If you don't do that properly, you're going to put holes in your own sandcastle. Okay? And then it's kind of like, I'll say it, I mean, we're not supposed to use the R word, but it is kind of when you're doing that and then you turn around and ask God to fix things that you actually messed up. So, but we're using religion to kind of cover that. Religion also has taught us with our parents to have more of an authority type of relationship with our parents rather than actually having a friendship with our parents. Also, that has a lot to do with our culture as well. For Black culture, that has a lot to do with it as well.
I'm not your little friend.
And you say things like that, but then you want your child to come to you and talk to you when something is going on at school. They're not telling you nothing. And I'll give you an example. So I got pregnant.
You don't. Mama too here.
Man. And the first thing that I can think of was, well, I called two of my god sisters and I'm like, you guys, listen. What am I supposed to do? I got to tell my mother that I'm pregnant. Do you know what that could possibly mean? Do you know what that means? Do you know what that means? Now, church. And I'm only giving this example because it's something that me and my mother has talked about. Because my mother actually had a wonderful adopted mother who was resourceful, who had wisdom, she was spiritual, but she did not allow religion to basically dictate common sense. Does that make sense? So she taught my mother some things. And I saw my mother from a lens of religion at one point. But when that situation happened, I saw my mother from a whole nother lens because I'm thinking I'm getting ready to be ostracized. I'm thinking I'm getting ready to be sent to hell. I'm thinking I'm getting ready to be beat up on and yelled at. My mother did none of it. She looked at me. She said, okay, all right. Wow. So what are we going to do next? Wow. And it was like, okay, well, we getting ready to have a baby. You know what I mean? Now, let's talk about the church. The particular church that we were going to at the time. I was one of those ones 20 some odd years ago because Carell is 20 now. Can't believe that. I had to, I had to get up in front of the church and apologize for being pregnant. That's something that does not happen now. But I was one of those ones that had to do that. Those behaviors and those methods of discipline will cause somebody not to want to talk to anybody in the church, period. I'm sorry. It just don't work like that. And I feel like a lot of things that does happen in the church within our youth and in their developmental stages and them creating their own structures is because of how religion has taught us family structure. Yep. And we didn't do it properly. So now their holes are inside of our towers in our castle because we have not rightly divided the word of truth. I don't care what nobody say. And remember, I'm the one who don't really care. So I don't care.
But this is why I love Michelle, because you always bring the spiritual, like remember I said in the beginning, Michelle and I's conversations, these topics are birthed out of our conversations that are just rooted in, we just start with like a spiritual conversation or scripture, or like Michelle and I read Proverbs together every year.
Every year we've been doing that.
I know I'm gonna get a text like Maya's time. for.
And we've been doing that for like 6 years now.
Yeah, we've been doing that for a minute.
Yes, it's been a minute. And we keep each other on that because I just believe you should not ever bring in your new year without some type of wisdom. And even though you think, well, you've reading the same thing over and over, God is revelatory, so his revelation changes as you mature. So what you read the first time, you're going to read that again, but you're going to get a different revelation the following year. So yeah,
just real quick, we have Derek Smith chimed in. Derek is a girl dad to the max. He has 3 girls. And Derek is one of the men that I watch how he relates to his family, but in particular his daughters, and the support that he offers to them. And I just think, Derek, you just do such an amazing job of letting your daughters know that you are always going to be there. You let them feel seen, but you also let them have fun. And you also let them be themselves and explore who they are and who they are becoming as young ladies, from girls to young ladies.
He's an active parent at the stand. That's just it.
You're an active parent.
He's an active parent at the beach.
You're at the beach and you're helping them build these sandcastles. So
an active parent at the beach.
That's what I was kind of talking about, you know, laying that foundation and how men, it's so important, you know, to lay that foundation with your girls. Derek is a great person who I look at and I'm like, yeah, I think that he's really doing it the way that is going to help them be great women. So kudos to you, Derek. But I think that spiritual aspect is so important too, because it's a lot of our experience. It's not everyone who's experienced who's going to tune in, but for whatever it is for you, you have something that is a foundational element for you. For us.
Okay. Wait. Derek said, wow, thank you for the love. It's not easy to parent from places you've never had. All right.
Now we're
thank you, Derek. Thank you.
Now we're getting into it.
Because I didn't want to say it, but you said it. So thank you. All right. So now, right, we're at the beach. Remember I said at the beginning that your parents were once at the beach with their parents.
Yeah. But were they taught the proper way to build?
Let's go back to Black culture. Black culture has taught us very bad behaviors, man. And honestly, a lot of, if you're between me and Maya's age, so that's 38 to 42 and older, and you have parents that are born between, because my parents are born in the 50s.
Yeah,
my parents are born in the 50s.
Yep.
So if your parents are born in the 50s and back, so 50s, 40s, 30s, like and I was raised by my grandmother who was born in the 30s. Baby. What do you mean? Their parents were with them at the beach building castles. No, they were at the beach by themselves building their own castles.
Yep,
let's be very clear.
It out on your own.
On their own. Something that they did not have. Yes. Always remember, people, that your parents were once at the beach with their parents.
That is like that point right there. Can we just put a pin in there, because you have to remember your parents are also they're also individuals too. They're human beings. They're trying to figure out their own lives, and a lot of times I feel like as their children and as their adult children, you kind of have a tendency, or at least I do, to be like, well, your life should kind of be figured out, right? Like you should kind of know what you're doing at this point. But I have to remember that they're not. They're not infallible. And in some cases, some of us are starting over at 50 and 60 and 70. You know, there's people who are starting businesses at this age. There's people who are going back to school. There's people who are going to therapy for the first time. So it's what you said in the beginning, like about you're talking more in the spiritual aspect, but we're evolving. We're constantly growing. And that was that other piece about when there's a fracture in the relationship, it stunts your growth. So if your parents experience something, like, for instance, I love my grandparents. Like, I thought my grandparents' house was the best. Now, my oldest cousin, Calvin, he always used to cry. It was me and him for a very long time before the next cousin was born. But I would always go to my grandparents' house because my mom would drop me off there, and then, you know, I'd go to school, and then she'd pick me up after. And I was like, he would always cry. And his mom, my aunt, would always have to come and pick him up. I'm like, what is wrong with it? It's the best place in the entire world. Like,
how do you not want to come here?
How do you not want to come here? But then, so my grandparents had 6 kids. But then I had to look at certain things, certain behaviors of my dad, my uncles, my aunts, and I had to realize I didn't have the childhood they had.
No.
Like, my grandparents were not strict on me. Like, they definitely were firm. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't allowed to do whatever I wanted to do. But certain things that started to be exhibited in my dad, I was like, I think that something happened to you in your childhood where it was.
I remember black focus. Shh. Put it in the rug. You better not say nothing. Oh. You better not tell my business. You better not embarrass me to these church folk.
So that's another thing.
It's the truth.
Because we're all dealing with traumas and things, right? You can't say it because you have to save face.
Save face.
And you have
but for what?
You have to save you have to save the picture.
The image.
That's been painted.
The image.
And if you come along with your little kid hands grabbing at everything and dismantling what has been set up, we don't do that. We don't talk about our business. We don't and it's probably the reason why I've shared things with you that I have not shared with anybody else. And the reason that
vice versa.
The reason I told her I don't share is because we don't share outside of my family. Now, remember, my family unit is just me, my mom, and my dad. So we don't share outside of our family unit. That's how I was raised. So there is a certain perception that's been painted that is not reality.
It's not.
It's not the truth.
It's not.
But you keep that in your four walls. And that's, I think it's a like you were saying, a result of that generation. It's like you just don't talk about things.
If your parents were born in the 50s, 40s, 30s, you don't talk about stuff like that.
No,
and I would say,
and you figure it out.
Figure it out. Pretty much. Put your big, and my grandmother would say, well, put your big girl panties on.
You figure it out, Jerome.
Or pull your bootstraps up and figure it out. And again, like I said, I was raised by my grandmother. So for her, she was less open than my mother, so it was just like, oh.
Who did your mom go to? Like, who did your mom have? You know what I mean?
Ooh.
So
yeah, we'll talk about
that's
personal. Okay.
This is this is good because we just free flowing here, guys. So if you got questions, if you got comments, drop them.
Throw it out. Yes, please. Please throw it out. Please throw it out. Wait, let me see something.
But wait, so we kind of started venturing into this realm. So my third sort of question is, how do you handle strained relationships with your parents? And caveat, I wrote on my Instagram, by the way, you can go ahead to Maya Gatewood is my handle. But I did like a little poll of how is your relationship with your parents right now? So 50% of the people who responded said that it's great, which is surprising to me. So I don't know what their level of great is. 25% said, maybe not. 25% that it's triggering.
To talk about parents.
Their relationship with their parents is triggering. No one said it's in repair, so I guess no one is currently.
Jesus.
No one's actively working on their relationship with your parent. So people are either doing great, doing amazing. You're realizing maybe something's not amazing, or you're completely triggered and you're just like, I'm turning this off.
Yeah, and I'm not dealing with it at all.
I'm not dealing with it at all. So. Question was, how do you handle strained relationships with your parents? I will say, for me,
I'm happy because, oh God,
for me, I handle strained relationships, and I was transparent. I did say I don't have the best. My relationship with my dad is better now that I'm older because I have my own house and I can leave and be like, I'm going to my house. I'm done with this conversation. I don't have to be here. But it's definitely gotten better since I've gotten older because I have a space now that I can go to outside of that. But I will say I deal with our relationship by saying, doing sort of the things that goes right up to the edge of that boundary of my mental health. And then I need to exit the situation. So I need to remove myself. I need to downplay the conversation if it's getting intense. I need to play it off. And it's probably not the best way, but you have to deal with the person where they are.
Like I said, your parents was at the beach with their parents once upon a time.
Take the person where they are and deal with them in their realm of of relatability. Mm-hmm. So that's one way to deal with a strained relationship with your parent, is to just sort of disconnect and remove yourself. But for you, go ahead and actually in the chat, drop in some ways. How do you think that you deal with a strained parent? Derek says, I think you have to be selective how and who you share your story with. Mm-hmm. Very true. Mm-hmm. You don't want to arm your enemies. However, be intentional about your path to healing.
Agreed.
Very good.
And I feel like with that, I do believe in kindred spirits. And I feel like that's kind of where me and Maya kind of connected, because it was just like our first initial kind of talk, which was about getting healthy, losing weight, changing some things in our lives. And just the things that we were saying to each other was like, this feels good. Yeah. This feels great. And I don't feel any tension. I didn't feel any jealousy. I didn't feel competitive even.
Honestly, I was happy I wasn't by myself.
Right. And I told, that was one of the things I said.
That was the main thing for me. I was like,
Maya,
thank God I'm not the only one.
Okay. You're not. And that's the thing. Like, that's another component of having a broken structure or having a not so solid sandcastle, is because you feel like you're by yourself.
Yes.
You really feel like you're by yourself. Family teaches you togetherness and unity. So if that is broken in any way throughout your life, now I will say this, at first you won't see it, but by the time you get about 35, 36,
baby,
and that life, like, I feel like when you hit 35, for women and men, I feel like there's something on your shoulder like, hey, yo, time getting there. And you don't know if you got the same amount of years in front of you like you got behind you. So you need to do something, because there's certain things that you want in life and it's not connecting. It's not connecting. By the time you get almost 40 or you're hitting 40, that's when things are really, almost cussed, dab smacked in your face. Yo, I'm sorry. Maya
really like that though. It really.
But it's like right here, and it's like, okay, so what you gonna do about it? It's
not going anywhere.
It's not going, and that's the thing. It's not going to go anywhere. Something that you say, you ask how you handle.
Come in this frame, because you keep coming out this frame.
I keep coming out because I was trying to stay close to the microphone. So you ask, like, how do people deal with strained relationships? Yes. Immaturity for me was. Because I said immaturity. Because some things I did have to go to the sand. I had to go to the beach by myself to put all the sand, go get the water and the sand and build the castle or rebuild the castle by myself. Right. And that was immaturity to maturity. My immature self, me and my mother bumped heads. Big time. And we bumped heads. And we definitely bumped heads when it came time for me to start to raise my first child. And, a mother is being a mother. But I didn't give her that, because to me it was, grandma raised me. So certain things you cannot tell me about parenting, I don't want to hear it. And I'm very much, like I said, I'm a person that I don't give a. So it's like, I don't want to hear nothing that you guys say. And that used to, because again, the Bible says to honor your mother and father so that your days will be long. Now, me and Maya, we already talked about this.
Yes.
The other verses after that talks about parents not provoking their children to anger.
What does it say, Sho?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Tell them, Sho, what it said. While Shelly's pulling that up, the immaturity piece and the maturity piece, I feel like that is something that we deal with, because like the aspect, the one thing, and we could talk about it later, but being an adult child but still being your parent's child is something that I had to like really navigate, because you want to be like, well, I'm an adult, you can't
Can't tell me what to do.
You can't say but too much, you know, especially I got my own house, I got my own car, I can go to my own, you know, everything. And for me, it was like when I went away to college, that's when I kind of, because I went to college out of state.
Okay.
That's when I felt like truly independent. And then when after I graduated and I came back home, I was like, oh no, I gotta go. Like, so that immaturity and maturity piece, I feel like is something that we as adult kids still deal with our parents, because for me, I'm never going to disrespect my parents, no matter my relationship with my father, no matter what's going on. I'm still going to be respectful because I respect their position as my father, even though perhaps some things that you did were not very fatherly, or not ways that I would have parented my child. But the fact of the matter is that you're my father. So I'm never going to speak disrespectfully. I would never do anything like that, which is difficult because it's like, it's not how you would relate to other people. Because I would tell other people where to go and how to get there 7 ways to Sunday, honey.
But your parents, you just
your
can't.
Parent, it's just like, oh, I need to read this thing.
Children, obey your parents in the Lord, that is, accept their guidance and discipline as his representatives, for this is right. For obedience teaches wisdom and self-discipline. Honor, which means to esteem, value as precious your father and your mother, and be respectful to them. This is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may be well with you and that you may have a long life on earth. Verse 4, fathers, do not provoke your children to anger. Do not exasperate them to the point of resentment with demands that are trivial or unreasonable or humiliating or abusive, nor by showing favoritism or indifference to any of them, but bring them up tenderly with loving kindness in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. Now,
wow,
the first verse says, children, obey your parents in the Lord. That's the first one, right? But under it, it says, fathers, do not provoke your children to anger. And then it lists, Amplified version, I love the Amplified version. Then it lists all the ways that a father can provoke their child to anger, which means that it happens that fathers provoke, or mothers, because again, biblical terms, the father was the head, the mother really wasn't represented, but the father as well as the mother, they are able to provoke a child to anger. But guess what? The first verse says, obey your parents. And after it talks about the parents provoking the child to anger, but we're still told to obey your parents. So that whole respect thing. And yes, I'm standing and telling you that I've been through some things with my mother that I felt like I had the right to disrespect her. Okay? I felt I had the right. But I honor the word of God. That's the first thing. I honor the word of God, and I want my days to be long. I totally believe this word, like seriously. So if I want my days to be long, I got to change the way that I address my mother when we're bringing up these situations and problems. Now, for a lot of parents that are born in the 50s and the 40s and the 30s, right? The issue is you can't tell them anything. Why? Because they were taught that you do not confront a parent. You do not bring up things I've done in the past. You don't do any of that.
Stay in the child's place.
So, yeah. So now that you have this generation and we're confronting things, certain things my mother did not want me to confront. And I understand that. But at the end of the day, I had to change my tone in how I go about that. Okay. So immaturity will have me going off at that mouth. Or deuces, I'm out. And that's usually probably the first thing I would do first, would be like, you know what? I don't got time for none of this.
Fight or flight.
I'm out. Like, whatever. But if you want to bring it back up, now it's like, okay. Left me alone.
Yeah. That's me. I'm the deuces. I'm the deuces.
I'm out.
That's my approach.
But do you see how that is, right? Now, let's go into my regular life. Now, when confrontation is popping up, I don't want to deal. Guess what I'm like? Or You said the wrong thing to me. You poked the bear, and now I don't went below the belt. Okay, I didn't even. I went too far. Okay, so this is what we're trying to get across, is that a lot of the behaviors and how you deal with your parents and you deal with your family structure as you are growing or as you are developing, you will see those things in your life, at your job, how you deal with your friends. If you have a love interest, you'll see it in that as well. It's going to come out like a sore thumb. And you can be in denial all you want. It could be everybody else's fault but your own. That's fine. Cool. But to those who are not in denial, you're going to be like, okay, you're going to sit back and you're going to say, something's not right. Why do I do the things that I do? Why am I here? And start looking at your foundation.
Period.
It's on you. Tone and posture, very important. Paralanguage speaks louder than words. Absolutely. And you need to be knowledgeable on that. You have to be knowledgeable. You have to have different languages for your parents. Again, our generation has taught us a different freedom, but our parents wasn't taught that freedom. So they don't understand that. And they still take it as disrespect, even when you are being respectful and you're confronting something. It's like they still think it's disrespect. Like, I'm not even disrespecting you. We're just talking.
We're just talking. But that, again, the generation, you don't talk back. You stay in a child's place. You do what I say.
You do what I say. Your mother 90, you 50, you a child. Shut up.
Do what I say. That's what I'm saying. It's like, as an adult child in your 40s, 50s, but still having to sort of adhere to that childhood dynamic of parent-child. It's such a weird feeling. It's such a weird feeling.
Man, but then you go to work and you allow your boss to do whatever they want to do to you. Why? Because you weren't taught to confront healthy with an authority figure. Period. That's just what it is. You weren't taught how to stand up for yourself, because you were told that if you stand up for yourself to your parent, you are being disrespectful. Like I said, but now you're dealing with leadership in different places and different opportunities, and you don't know how to stand up for yourself because you were never taught. Now, I will say this, looking at the other side of our race, they don't have no problem. Nope. And what we Black culture view as disrespectful from our other counterpart, their culture and how they talk to their parents, and you're looking like, my mother would never, and I would never allow my child. As a matter of fact, I will let my child have freedom of speech, because guess what? I want her to have that same boldness when she's out there in life and I'm not with her. Stand up for yourself.
But see, that's that preparing piece. It's like, don't you want to lay the foundation for when you're not going to be there, and that they can still be effective member of society and successful and independent and all the things, because you're not always going to be there to hold their hand.
I mean, some of us would like to, especially, again, Black culture has taught us our parents are going to be around for a long time. No, they're not. No, they're not.
And by the way, this is just a little side. If you are an adult, please make sure that your parents' paperwork is in order. Please make sure that you know where their will is. If they don't have one, please make them get one. Make sure that their life insurance is straight, because the parents from that generation, they got stuff under mattresses, they got stuff in the attic, they don't have stuff. Like,
I'm dealing with that literally.
Okay, so just, that was just a little side.
Nah, but it's a good one. It's a good one
because as a child now, the role is sort of reversed.
Yes,
and it's flipped, and so now you have to take care of your parent. Not necessarily if they're I'm not saying medically incapacitated, but
anything
care
can happen. Yeah, anything
right.
Can happen.
The care is now there because now the exchange is now flipped, because they're sort of not being morbid, but as they transition out, you're coming out behind, but you want to make sure that they're leaving in a good place and space. And I need to do a thing about generational wealth, because I heard this keynote speaker, and she was talking about the easy one. She was like 4 principles to generational wealth, but one of them is the easiest way is life insurance.
And then we talk about that
life insurance. get life insurance, take out a policy,
And,
obviously for more than what it's going to take to lay you to rest.
It needs to be a whole life insurance,
A
and
whole
not
life insurance.
Term life insurance.
Okay, so we need to talk about that.
That's a whole nother conversation.
And then they take the excess and they can set up businesses. They can buy real estate. Like, we're going to get into all that. But there's a lot that goes into the care, right? I guess is what I'm trying to sort of convey as an adult child to your parent.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just like, oh, okay, I've raised you, you're 18, bye. That's it. End of story. But no, it's like there's still this back and forth relationship as you continue to grow older and older into adulthood. But I never want to leave my MG lives on a negative note.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some strategies that we can give people? What are some approaches that we can give people who are dealing with difficult family structures, difficult parent relationships? Because remember, 25% on my poll on Instagram said that their relationship with their parents was triggering, and 25% said it was
because I know I was one of them. Mm-hmm.
So what approaches can we give to people?
Everyone has to come out of denial. That's the first one. I'm sorry. Everybody has to come out of denial. And if you are raised in church, everyone has to come out of denial. You are not Jesus' sister. You are not Jesus' brother. You are not the right hand to the Father. So you are not perfect. You are human and you are flawed. Yes. Okay. And we all make mistakes.
Yes.
And unfortunately, our culture and our economy did not equip us with the proper language, with the proper wisdom and resources to parent our children properly. So the first thing, you have to come out of denial. Second, everyone needs to be very forgiving of each other, because again, you who are taking this personal, you were at the beach with your parent. Your parent may have dropped the ball with helping you build your sandcastle, but remember that your parents were also at the beach with their parents, and their parents might have dropped the ball with helping them build their sandcastle. So everybody has to be very forgiving and very understanding. And to Black folk, get y'all tails in therapy. Leave your pastor alone.
We need family counseling, people.
We need family counseling.
Licensed professional.
Your pastor has his own family that he probably need therapy with. What do you mean?
Okay.
Go to therapy.
Go to therapy. Okay.
Go to therapy.
And the I think connecting thread through all of those things is communication.
Oh, big time. But some people need therapy because they don't know how.
They don't know how to
communicate.
And there's different types of communication, right? If you feel like you are saying something that should be understood, but it's not being received on the opposite end, then guess what? You're not effectively communicating. And you might be a good communicator, but communicating effectively means that you're able to get your point across to the other person, and you're also able to understand what the
without
other person
offending
is saying,
anyone.
Without offending. So both parties should sort of walk away with an understanding at the base level. That's effective communication, in my opinion. And you have to be honest.
Derek says to process your trauma experience first, come out of denial, then deal with finding resolve with others. Be forgiving and understanding. If you're not in a space of healing, you will do greater damage. And that's true.
Hurt people.
That's just what they do. Also, you cannot force now. Those people who have had traumatic things happen in their families, which is very sensitive topics, certain things or certain words that I do not want to use right now because we don't have the information to back that. But if that's the case with you, you still also cannot force somebody to confront either. If they don't want to confront the situation with you, you now have to learn, let it go. Let it go. Because forcing someone to confront something, like you said, if a person is not in the space of healing, it's going to cause much greater damage.
Yeah.
Because you're forcing someone, come on, like they're not ready to see that. Mentally, they're not prepared to deal. And there is a thing called a mental breakdown. Honestly, I think America is probably 50% of active mental breakdowns,
and you'll never get the result that you're looking for by forcing a confrontation.
And that will build resentment.
It's going to build resentment. It's going to build a wall there where you might not be able to then talk to that person about even regular things because they just feel like they see you coming a mile away. So yes, and I feel like getting transparent for a second again is like there's just some things that I know I'll never be able to get closure with my dad. Like there's just some conversations and topics that I don't even want to approach because I'm like, I'm not going to get the result that I want. And first, like, what is even the result? So maybe it's for you, it's just even identifying what it is that you're even looking for from this person, right? Identify that first. What's the best possible outcome? So if you can't get that closure with that person, if you can't get that final resolve, that conversation, what's the next layer down that you can get so that you maintain your mental health and your peace and that you are able to continue on and be effective, amazing, all the things for your own life. So maybe have sort of like a tiered approach where it's like, this is the best possible outcome. Can't get that. All right, let's go here.
Move on.
Can't get that. Okay, let's go. I'll at least settle for this, type of thing.
Yep.
So I think that's kind of where I landed with my dad.
Something that I have been doing and saying to myself for, I'll say about 3 to 4 months now is, and it's an affirmation that I keep on my phone as a reminder. Accept people, situations, and events as they are in this moment and not as you wish they were. And I feel like a lot of us, I know for me, struggling with that because sometimes you're offended because the outcome is not what you expected.
Yes.
It's what it is. It really is what it is.
Yeah.
And you're offended. You're upset, but you have to accept people, situations, and events as they are in this moment and not as you wish they were. Take responsibility for your situations and problems.
Thank you.
Do not blame anyone because, like I said, your parents were at the beach with their parents too. And they may not have had all of the resources to talk and communicate with you properly. Okay. Yeah. So take responsibility for your situation and your problems. Do not blame anyone or anything or even yourself. Have a creative response to any situation. I'm going to say that 2 more times.
Say that.
Have a creative response to any situation. 1 more time. Have a creative response to any situation. Not a violent response. Not a stonewall response. A creative response. So that means you need to take time, process, breathe, and implement some course of action. Okay?
Yes.
And after you do all of that, this is the best one for me. Relinquish the need to convince others of your point of view.
Oh my God.
Relinquish that need. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Some people are never going to, some of your family members and some things that have happened in your household or in your family structure. Some people are never going to be accountable to some of the things that they may have done or said, aware or unaware. They're not going to do that.
God,
they're not going to do it. But you have to relinquish the need to convince somebody of your point of view. Let it go.
So tough.
Let it go. Let it go. I promise you. Let it go. Another thing I want to throw out there too, because all of these things are here to, and we're saying these things because Maya sees and how she's transforming and changing. I'm seeing how I'm transforming and changing. 3 components to transformation and changing is, first thing is truth. That's the first thing is truth. You want to transform your life. You want to change your life. Be truthful. The second one is confrontation. And that's the hardest part. And confrontation will come from anywhere. Oh, this truth is going to come from anywhere too. Also, when the truth comes to you, it's not going to come to you from somebody that you're expecting it to come from. So that's why the confrontation is going to happen. Because when that truth and when God coordinates everything for the truth to hit you at the right moment that it's supposed to come to you.
Sometimes it'll blindside you, baby.
You're gonna be looking like, what you just said?
Right.
So now there's a confrontation because you have to process that truth. You have to process that truth.
And the confrontation could be with that person or with yourself.
Or with yourself. And for me, it wasn't even with the person that relayed the truth. It was with myself. Because certain things I didn't want to accept.
You gotta admit things to that's the hardest thing, is admitting to yourself.
Number 3. Number 3 is the hard one. It's death. And it can either be death to a situation, death to an old self, or an actual death in your family that affects you. So truth, confrontation, and death are the 3 components to change. But you have to be really, really strong to deal. To really deal.
That is good, Michelle Andrews White.
Because I had to live it. And I'm still
that's really wow.
Coming off that that little tip of it.
I'm gonna make sure
Jesus.
We're gonna take this thumbnail because I'm gonna get this that was my soundbite. You're gonna see that soundbite on Instagram tomorrow. So that was amazing. Honestly, truthfully. And I hope that we give you guys some strategies to help you. I don't want this to just be an unburdening venting session of negativity, but it's important to share our stories, and it's important to commiserate with one another and find those similarities. Because like we said, Michelle and I would just be talking and we find those commonalities and find you're not alone. And so you find support. But one of the things that you said when you were talking about kind of letting it go, and I was like, I came to a point a few years ago when I was like, I'm not going to hell over this. I'm just not.
People don't understand now.
If this is going to hell, it's going to be because of something I did,
but not because of nobody else.
Not because of nobody else. And I was like, I have got to get this. I have got to clean this out of my heart, because it was in my heart. And once I realized it was in my heart, I was like, oh, that's deep in there, because I'm the type of person when I love really hard, I love really long. So I was like, ooh, gotta clean out that heart. This is about to be a process. Strap in, sis, because this is gonna be a process.
This is about to be a bumpy ride.
But and I did go have a conversation with, my pastor, because I was like, from a spiritual component, I've got to let this go. I've got to clean this out of my heart, my spirit, so that I can approach this person. Soul work. That is so hard, because you are not gonna. Well, for me, in my situation, it wasn't like I wasn't gonna speak to my dad again or see him again. And I need to be able to relate to him and interact with him in a way that I'm okay mentally.
Soul work is deep and dark. It's not light. It's not bright. There's no sunflowers. There's no roses or anything.
You have to get your hands in the sandcastle, and you're gonna have to put your hands in the sandcastle. And it's gonna be dirty. And it's gonna be messy. And
some of us will have to go back to the sandcastle by ourselves. Some of us might have the opportunity to go back to that sandcastle with our parents. But if not,
I want to real quick, because Derek put something else in here.
What did he say?
He said, also understand the apology will not heal the experience.
No, it heals you.
The focus has to be on finding and setting new boundaries and moving forward, which is exactly what I just said. I had to figure out how to move forward with my dad. And in a way that was like, it's not my optimal result that I want. I know I'm not going to get that. So, okay.
Accept things for what they are.
You said it.
Not for what you want it to be. The apology is to heal you. Actually, that's something that I believe even with prayer. Sometime in certain situations, from what I've experienced so far, sometimes prayer does not change things. It changes you. Because the result is the result. And I'm gonna give an example. There's a particular death, right? And I said death is a part of the 3 components of transformation and change. And for me, that death was literal. And it actually happened twice, because the death that happened was a family member. And then there was a death to something in me that I had to let go after that person died. Got it? Okay. So the thing is, when this person died, I prayed hard, y'all. I economized. I fell all over the floor, foamed at the mouth, jacked my hair up. I did it all because I was giving every piece and fiber of my being, because I wanted healing for this person. God did not answer that prayer, but the prayer that I prayed changed me, and it helped me to accept what was the inevitable.
Wow.
Okay. So prayer is the same thing like what Derek just said. Sometimes apologies is not changing the person. It's just going to change you. Yeah. And guess what? Apology, once it changes you, you relinquish the need to convince people of your point of view.
I love that. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to share with the people? Because we budgeted 30. I always budget 30 minutes and go over.
I mean, but I had just walked in the door at 6:45, y'all. It was the traffic downtown Newark was
it was a struggle.
insane.
It was struggle.
Insane.
Getting on here. And I'm so glad that we got this chance to spend with you all and share some of our thoughts and our experience. I hope that you felt our heart. I hope that you heard our heart. What's Monique saying?
Sometimes you don't even get the apology and you have to be okay with that as well.
This is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Sometimes you won't get that optimal result you were looking for. So what's the next layer down so that you can move forward in your mental health and be okay?
It's to let it go.
It's individual.
Relinquish the need to convince someone of your point of view.
That's a hard pill to swallow.
When people are so adamant about getting an apology because they have done you wrong, it's because you still want your point of view to be recognized. And sometimes you just have to let that go.
I struggle with that, y'all. I'm not going to, now, if you're struggling with that, you're not alone. I struggle with that because I have a desire to be understood.
Yeah.
Because I try to understand people. So I want that reciprocated. But that's a hard one, but that is great advice. I would say this is a process. And I always say in some of my other MG lives, don't let anybody shame you about your process and how you process. How you process is how you need to do it. And the length of time that takes for you is the length of time that takes for you. And so let your process be what it is. Let the length of time be what it is because you want to arrive at a healthy you.
Healthy you.
Healthy you.
Healthy you.
So whatever you need to do to be the healthy you, do that. But relationships with parents are hard. They're tough. And they're tough as an adult because you are realizing certain things that may or may not have occurred in your early development that have now set up the structure
for how your life is going right now.
Your life is now. And so you look back and who are the people that were there in that early developmental. It was your parents.
It was your parents. Your siblings.
But we're not going to blame people, right? That's what you said. We're not going to blame people.
Blame.
But we are going to identify. We're going to recognize and realize. And then we're just going to try to, what are we going to try to do?
I would say my nice thing I would say is be kind to yourself. Be forgiving and kind to yourself. You really, 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 really need to. That's what I would say take away from all of this. If you are at that point in your life where you are ready for change, you're ready for transformation, and it just feels like it's not happening, that's the moment you need to be kind to yourself. Because you're actually in a good spot because you are aware that you need to make a change.
Yes.
But just be kind to yourself.
Because the soul work is about to get real deep. The soul work, I'm about to use that. Soul work.
It's deep and it's dark.
Thank you for that. So be kind to yourself. Give yourself some grace.
Yes.
And give yourself some time to process all these great things. You all are amazing people. We love you so very much. This might need to be a part 2. If you want this to be a part 2, give us some heart.
Yes, give us some heart. Give us some feedback
in the comments.
Because if you do, we're going to bring a therapist on too.
Yes,
to give us more of a clinical standpoint.
We would love to do that. So this definitely can be a part 2. Derek, I'm going to be reaching out to you for our October MG Live. So stay tuned for that. And with that,
maybe we could do all 3 of us.
Well, we have, or maybe we need to do the 4 of us because it was going to be like me, Derek, Munira, and so maybe we need to pull you in. And maybe listen, we could really do it right out of. We're going to talk offline about that. Right. Y'all just stay tuned because I have some amazing content coming your way.
She does.
MG Live. You can find me on mygatewood.com. All of my MG Lives are there, so I do encourage you to go there and look back at some past topics. Or if you're here on Facebook, you can go into my videos and just take a look at MG Live. But I have some amazing content coming, guys, because life just be lifing right now. And it's just throwing, God is after content after content. So keep it plugged right here.
Keep it plugged.
And
keep it plugged.
I will have more guests for you, more topics for you. And I hope that it's all relevant and helpful. That is the goal and that is the point, is to help and share. Yeah. So with that, I think we're going to log off an hour and 20 minutes. Thank you for spending
Thank you for all being a part and not leaving us.
All right, guys. We'll see you on the next video. Bye.